Hi, my name is Moshe Kindler, and I'm the publisher of The Jewish Link,
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kratz. I'm editor of The Jewish Link.
and you're on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. Welcome, Justin. Okay, we're here at the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting. Okay, we're really excited to be here. We're happy to have Justin actually cross the bridge, which is a big deal. Our guest today is Mr. Justin Brasch, who I've probably known maybe for about 4 or 5 years, more or less. Justin, you're going to have to help us with all your titles, and the goal of this meeting, this interview, the podcast is really you're going to pitch us a little bit, pitch us about yourself, about your community, about White Plains, about the town, and if we kind of like what we hear, maybe we'll actually have to write about it in the paper as well. But that's not what we're here for.
That's great.
Take it away.
So I'm Justin Brasch. I'm currently the president of the White Plains Council. I've spent my life in public service. I started, believe it or not, when I was 17. I was an intern for then Congressman Ted Weiss. And I've been involved forever. When I graduated from college, I served as the Democratic State Committeeman for the West Side of Manhattan and on the Executive Committee of the State Democratic Party. And then it was time to get married.
Really?
So you started out essentially as a career politician.
Yeah, I've always practiced law.
Okay.
And I still practice law.
Okay.
Because like most of us, I have kids in yeshiva day school, so that's a good thing.
Can we go back even a little further? Like,
Sure.
Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised on the Upper West Side.
Really?
I was confused. I like to say that I was raised confusedox. I grew up
Haven't heard that term.
good.
I grew up with one set of Orthodox grandparents and one set of Reform grandparents. So we had a very confused upbringing, and ultimately we ended up at Lincoln Square Synagogue, although we were not Shomer Shabbat. I actually had my bar mitzvah with Rabbi Riskin, which was quite an honor, and Cantor Goffin, who was the famous chazan there, taught me for my bar mitzvah. I went to Hebrew school there. After school, I went to Hunter College High School, which is a very progressive place in Manhattan, and really, one of the specialized high schools, a great place. And so I grew up on the Upper West Side, and I became more observant throughout my life, and when I graduated from college, I moved in with my grandfather, who was 97 years old, and I lived with my grandfather from 97 to 101 in his apartment just a few blocks from my parents on the Upper West Side. He died at 104, and he was my frum grandfather.
That's so beautiful.
He had an influence on you, obviously.
Throughout my whole life, when I was a child, I always thought there was something very special and very different about him. He cared about people. He didn't care much about materialism. He cared about the world. Of course, he loved Jews and Judaism. He was one of these guys who went to synagogue every day. He was a very open-minded type of person. And
European background?
yeah, he was from what he would have called Russia. Today would call Ukraine. He was from Kyiv. He was trained as a jeweler. He was not successful in business. And he was just a very inspiring person. He cared about the world, cared about people, and boy, did he love Jews and Judaism.
Wow. That's amazing. So we get from your Upper West Side experience, you moved to White Plains after you got married.
That's an interesting story.
Okay.
How before I got married, I had a roommate, and his name was Eitan Bellin, graduate of Yeshiva Flatbush. And one day, when we were single and would watch TV at the end of the evening, because I would either do politics or work out, and then we'd sit in front of the TV when I was done, when I came home, and he said to me, I heard there's something different going on in White Plains. And this is probably 23 years ago. I'll never forget it. And he said, there's something different going on there. He says, I understand it's a diverse place, it's a down-to-earth place, but all the synagogues seem to get along there. And I was very taken by that. Of course, I've never forgotten that. And I was like, that is the kind of, I grew up on the Upper West Side where everybody's different and everybody gets along. So I was like, the idea that you could live in a suburban community, which is just like that, was very intriguing. And I remembered that. So when I got married, my wife was from Syracuse originally. And she said, I need a house in the backyard. So I said, we have to move to White Plains.
Wow.
Although we'd never been there.
You didn't even bother
You
to
sort
check
of
it out.
had it in your head that this was a nice place.
At that point, I had 2 friends who moved there and loved it. And I had 2 friends who didn't move there because they didn't like the housing stock. And I was like, that's a ridiculous reason not to move somewhere. So needless to say, we explored the community. And it is a diverse place. All 5 synagogues do get along. And for example, this summer, the 5 synagogues do things for Israel. This summer, I had the honor for the 5 synagogues of Israel to interview our big advocate, Congressman Richie Torres, on behalf of the 5 synagogues for Israel. And it was broadcast, and it was a lot of people came. And we have a great thing in White Plains. Everybody gets along, and it's really just beautiful. And in general, it's a wonderful community. We have a city where people work very hard to bring people together.
And go ahead.
I actually didn't realize how I always thought White Plains was this massive town, because we all see, anyone who drives through, you see the nice downtown center of White Plains. It turns out I didn't realize that actually it was not even close to being the biggest city in Westchester.
But it's one of the biggest cities. It's the second or third. We're actually the first or second fastest growing city in the state of New York. So we have thousands of units of housing coming into our downtown right now. And of course, we have to figure out how to manage that. We fortunately have the infrastructure, because only about 70,000 people live in White Plains, but close to a quarter of a million people work there. So we have quite a big infrastructure. So absorbing another 10 or 20,000 residents shouldn't be too much of a big deal. The big issue in White Plains is it's become a wealthier place, and we're always trying to figure out how to expand our affordable housing. I'm very proud to have supported the expansion of our affordable housing. And if you move to White Plains, if you put up a large development in White Plains, you have to provide 12% affordable housing within it, or you have to buy out of it.
12%.
Yes, and we expanded it from 10 to 12 or 13. And one thing that I was a big part of when I ran originally was to make it citywide, because once in a while somebody builds out of the downtown these big projects, and now they have to make that affordable as well. And we do have a project like that, and I'm proud.
You were on the planning board for many years as well, right?
I was on the planning board for a few years. I spent many years on the budget committee for the county. I was appointed to that, and that was a great place. When I was raising kids, I was that and a Democratic district leader in my neighborhood, where, believe it or not, for a volunteer position as Democratic district leader, I was primaried. And my co-district leader, who at the time was the president of the city council, Ben Boykin, and I knocked on every single door in our district.
I believe it.
And we got 81% of the vote.
Okay.
So that was,
wow.
Is that physically possible, by the way, to knock on every single door?
in those districts, because we only got, I don't know, a couple of hundred votes, so it's possible.
Right. So there's always this. That is a reference to something we've covered in the Jewish Link before, because that's something we're looking for as a theme for our podcast, of how have you interacted with the Jewish Link in the past, so we can bring you to our readers in a way that they understand best. So what the idea is that we did cover your interview with Richie Torres. It was a big news at the time, and Judy Berger, who's our New Rochelle-based Westchester reporter for many years now. I believe she was there that day, and it was an interesting kind of event and an interesting idea for us to be having Richie Torres in our paper, especially since he's really on the left end of the spectrum, and he's distinguished himself a little bit in terms of engagement with the Jewish community, while also being essentially a member of this far left progressive group.
But he's not part of the squad.
Right.
Let's be clear
Correct.
about that. He's a progressive, and he's actually my kind of progressive. We share an interest in, and we share. I was with him 2 weeks ago, and I posted on my Facebook that we share a passion for affordable housing and a love for Israel, and he's a tremendous defender of the Jewish people and of Israel, and understanding our situation as a community, our vulnerabilities, and actually how decent we are as people, and how much we care about everyone, and understanding Israel as a democracy.
Mm-hmm. So
did you have any moments of Tanya? Did you have to spend time with Richie to kind of get more friendly with him, to get to see where he's come from? I think a lot of people didn't know where he was coming from. A lot of people didn't really know him until he came.
I did not know him until he came to Congress, but certainly his type of person is the kind of person I've been dealing with my whole life. I've been in the Democratic Party since I'm 17 years old, and I went to New York City public schools. So I meet somebody like him, and I can pretty much size him up and figure him out and talk to him and have a great time with him. I'm very grateful, because I can walk into any room and talk to any person and have tremendous comfort, and it's a great thing. And certainly as the only Orthodox elected official in Westchester, that's hopefully something I'm adding to our community.
And then I want to so that's a great answer. It's broadening and interesting, but I want to bring us also back to, because you have Jewish kids in the various yeshiva day school system, and even in Israel. Can we talk a little bit about your interactions with the Jewish Link in terms of what you get out of it and what is important to you, what sections might be of interest to you, and that could we do better with?
Okay, well, look, I'll tell you one thing. In my family, like I'm sure in a lot of families, we look forward to getting the link like crazy. Now, I don't deny I've been in the link a few times. You guys have covered me, you've interviewed me, you've talked to me, you've asked me. I remember when Mondaire Jones was elected to Congress and he was our new congressman, you spoke to me. I mean, I've spoken to you guys on a number of issues of concern to the community and to the community in White Plains and in Westchester, and you guys really do great coverage. Of course, my daughters went to my son is at Frisch, so everybody wants something else. I look, of course, first for the political news and who you're talking to and who I can learn from and learn about. And my kids want to look at the sports and what's going on at the schools. The school section is amazing. I get to see all my friends' kids there. It's a lot of fun. It's very exciting. And then who doesn't want to look at the real estate section and see what's going on? And then you have things to talk about. I happen to like money and investment and finance. Most people don't know that about me. So I always want to read about those things. So the link is really great. And then, of course, we have to add, there's always Divrei Torah, so.
Absolutely.
Often not as an afterthought, but I'm sure you didn't mean it that way.
No, don't worry about it.
No.
By the way, I just want to tell you, I love hearing that you're a parent that actually admits to loving and reading the school section. So,
I absolutely love it.
I love it.
It also gives us a sense of who you are, and like where someone chooses to send their kids to school has a very broad impact on, of course, their future life, but also on the whole family. Sure. So it helps us sort of understand who you are, what kind of emails you're getting in your inbox at all times, day and night, etc. Mm-hmm. But it's helpful. Very good. So, and also we wanted to know how your community sees, I guess, I would say sees the larger Jewish world, how you feel a part of the Jewish world in coming from White Plains. By the way, I should say, I have a friend in White Plains who I didn't mention before, Shai Franklin.
Oh, he's a great friend. I saw him last night.
And he is on the opposite political spectrum than me and has done the most crazy things politically. And he lives in White Plains, and I think he loves it.
He loves living in White Plains. He cares deeply about the community. Actually, he and I once had a fundraiser together for a state assemblyman who ran for Congress and lost, for David Buchwald. I mean, he cares very deeply about the broader community and the Jewish community, and he's devoted most of his professional life to helping the Jewish community. So
right. Yeah.
He's a friend. He was over for Shabbat a few weeks ago, and needless to say, we come from a little bit different sides of the left, so we certainly have our arguments.
He's really an intense political.
But he cares tremendously, and whenever Jews care and want to be involved in the Jewish community, it helps our community, and it's fantastic.
I think a lot of people in our community are worried about those kind of interactions. Can we get along about just on a personal level? You mentioned before about Councilman Torres. Like, are those they're worried about some of those younger guys coming up in the younger men and women coming up in the Democratic Party? You're kind of a veteran. Do we have a lot to worry about? Is there
absolutely? We always have a lot to worry about, and we have never had the type of anti-Semitism or acceptance of anti-Semitism somehow that exists now. And but there's an answer to that. I mean, everyone needs to be more involved. It is my sense that not enough people know who we are and that we care about them and that we care about the broader world, and we're not involved enough as a community. Everyone needs to get up and pick and choose the way that they want to be involved in the broader community. If you don't want to be in your local Democrat or Republican Party, serve on a local board or a commission for your city, serve in a not-for-profit. People need to feel us, touch us, and understand us, and they don't. I mean, myself, I'm working around the clock, and I show up at everything, and it's very important, and it changes the environment. And you can take on people, because when I was first elected to the council, there were a couple of people from other communities that were saying some pretty bad things about us on social media, and I took them on. And both of them, when we stand up proudly for what we stand for, which is sincere and honest and good, people will need to reevaluate their positions. And of course, when you're proud and strong, people don't want to necessarily take you on. So I've had great success with those two people, and that's a tremendous, if you ask me one of the greatest things I've ever done for the Jewish people, it was stopping misinformation about Israel on social media.
On a local level.
On a local level within Westchester County. My base of support, or where I'm known and where I do things, is Westchester County. I sort of joke around that if you crossed over into Putnam County, they would have no idea who I am or what I do or anything about me. But that's outside of Westchester.
I hear that.
But I do think that it's important for everyone to be involved, and it makes a big difference.
Have you actually tried to recruit people? Have you tried to say, hey, member of Young Israel White Plains, Hebrew Institute of White Plains, we got to get you got to get involved.
I say it throughout everywhere I go. In general, I think that we have, our family structure is very difficult because we all need dual incomes to pay for all of this, and a lot of people don't have the time. So there are people that want to help. There are people who I think are afraid to help, and I don't know why they're afraid to be involved. When we show ourselves to be the sincere, good, caring people that we are, people accept us. And if you show other communities that we care. One of my favorite quotes was, what is your approach to Judaism? And Rabbi Saul Berman, who's from Stern College, was the rabbi at Lincoln Square for a few years after Rabbi Riskin. And he once said, I know why the Haredim are circling the wagons and protecting themselves. But he said, our job is to bring Kedusha to the world. Our job is to be involved and to bring Kedusha and to bring good things and holiness and to show people we're good and we care. And I guess sort of an Or LaGoyim type of mentality. And I completely agree with that. I think we should all get up in the morning and make that happen. I think we have a problem, though, in that not enough people know us. Not enough people in other communities, particularly in the Black and Latin communities, know certainly Jews, or particularly Orthodox Jews. And obviously, when you don't know, you have fear and misunderstanding and all the rest. And when people see who we are, they like us. They see we care about them and their communities. And there's a terrible misunderstanding that we don't. And as I said, I work day and night in Westchester and to do what I can.
Amazing.
About what you just said really resonates with us. I grew up not that differently from you. But that kind of, I was told I could be president of the United States. There were no boundaries in terms of what I could and should be doing. It actually bothers me a little bit that I'm not more involved. I feel like I should volunteer for run for town council now.
Let's find a committee to go sit on.
But an interesting thing that I always feel, which is sad, is that I'm in the Democrats, and so I can't speak for others. We need more people involved in the Democratic Party. We need more of our people volunteering to serve on the local Democratic committees and coming 10 or 15 times a year and carrying petition signatures and having just all the other leaders from all the different communities, Asian, Black, Latin, LGBTQ, you name it, see us, touch us, know we care about them, and then they care about us, and a lot of the misinformation fades. And believe me, then they go back to their communities, and it resonates, and it's loud, and it works. Those connections work, but you have to show up. You have to really do things. Interestingly enough, last week ago, Saturday night, I was invited to the Slater Center, which is a neighborhood center owned by the city of White Plains, right next to the public housing. So a friend of mine who I know from the Youth Bureau Board and the Police Reform Committee, Katrina Jackson, said, we're having a dance party for all the kids, peace in the streets, dance party. And we're going to bring the cops and the kids together, which is definitely something I've always worked on. So, my wife and I went. And we were, except for the officers, we were the only Caucasian people there except one other person. And, my wife was in there doing the line dancing, and we had a great time. But, people see us, they know us, and it changes things.
That's great.
That's great.
So I feel like this is a really great interview. It's been amazing. We got a sense, even in 10, 15 minutes, of who you are, Justin, and it's appreciated. Your words have resonated. So I guess the idea of our meeting today is, how can we bring more of your message into our newspaper? We like what you're saying. We're drinking the Kool-Aid. I find nothing that I disagree with in any way. So basically, how do you see your next piece for us in the paper, or what can we do for you? What new projects are you involved with?
Exactly. One thing that you guys could obviously do is cover more of what I'm doing, and then I can even share with some of my other colleagues, Jewish and non-Jewish, what they're doing. People, at least in White Plains and in Westchester, would be interested. We have a lot of terrific public servants, certainly in Westchester and in White Plains, and they're really trying. People get a bad rap for being in politics and government service. And there are bad people in politics and government service. There are a lot of very good people trying to do good things. And I think that people would be interested to hear from them in the link.
Right.
I mean, there are people that you wouldn't know about. But I'll tell you a couple of amazing stories. I'm very close with our county executive, George Latimer, and his
Yes.
And I literally, I saw him 4 times this weekend. We were at a birthday party with 12 people and our spouses on Sunday night. But people don't always know about his deputy, Ken Jenkins, who's an African-American leader. And Ken Jenkins was the chair of the county legislature, and he will probably be the next county executive. And I'll give you an example of how you guys should interview and what I'm amazing. I have 2 stories that I've never told publicly. One was from a while ago. In early COVID, my rabbi's brother died. And everyone was going crazy. I couldn't even get in touch with George Latimer, our county executive, to figure out what our synagogue should be doing to comply with the rules and to keep everybody safe. I was having difficulty. And my rabbi called me on a Thursday night, Rabbi Greenberg, and he said, my brother passed away. We knew he had COVID. And believe it or not, he's at the Valhalla Medical Center in Westchester, and he's on a refrigerator truck lost, and we need to get him out so we can have the funeral before Shabbat. So here I was. I'm a city councilman.
Right.
Everybody's going crazy.
Yep.
Nobody has any time and energy. What in God's name am I supposed to do? So I called up my friend Ken Jenkins, the deputy county executive. He got on, and he hadn't slept in 4 weeks by that point, and he got on the phone and he made it happen. And that's the kind of person he is. He and everything worked out. And more important than that, a few weeks ago, as you know, there was a tragedy. An airplane went down in Westchester with two Orthodox, I believe they were Chabad or Hasidish, went down. And I had heard about it through a totally different channel of mine. I didn't know that they were Orthodox. Right. One of my colleagues on the city council was a firefighter for 20 years in a different town. So he has actually said a terrible thing happened. So I actually had dozed off and my phone rang, and it was this lovely person, Ken Jenkins, the deputy county executive. So of course I got up and picked it up. And he said, I have to tell you that this plane went down. It was a couple of Hasidic Jews, Orthodox Jews. And he says, you're my guy. So he says, we want to make sure, how do we accommodate their family? What can we do for them? How do we get them food? How do we get them services? We're searching for the body. We can't find it, et cetera, et cetera. So can you imagine? He called me up to figure out what he could do for the family. So we talked about getting them food and services and places to sleep and all the rest. And actually then my Rabbi Greenberg, who's an amazing person, I reached out to him and he said, let's go. And we ran out to meet the family. Of course, by the time we got there, they had found the bodies and there was little that we could do. But can you imagine the sensitivity of this African-American leader to call me to figure out what accommodations do we need to do for the family that's waiting? How do we help them? And I really thought that was very beautiful. And
that was a big incident in the community. So it's about a month ago, probably. Right? For 30, 40 days ago.
They're for the Cleveland. From
Cleveland
Jewish community.
So an interview with somebody like that, I'm just saying, a person who's a tremendous friend of our community in Westchester is probably, sorry to tell such a long story, but
it's a beautiful story, and it shows the value of you in your place as a shaliach for the Jewish people, which is really, it's an amazing place where you are. Like, who knows how the trajectory of how you even got to White Plains, to me, is very surprising because 23 years ago, I thought people were only talking about Teaneck and Bergenfield as a growth place.
Yeah, but my roommate, as I said, my roommate said to me, there's something different going on in White Plains.
Interesting. Right. So it's true. It's different. It's not, you're not the shtetl. You're not the Teaneck Bergenfield, but yet
you should know our community is growing very rapidly, and we also have we have 5 synagogues that are uniquely strong within their movements. Within Reconstructionists and Reform, we have very strong things. We have a traditional conservative synagogue, Temple Israel Center, which is 2 blocks from my home, and they have a tremendous Shomer Shabbos community, and of course we're all in it together, which is beautiful.
Actually, we got a bunch of calls from Temple Israel Center. A lot, it's true. I agree with that.
They like the paper.
Everyone lives in White Plains. The community's all kind of in the same quadrant, the same neighborhood.
The observant community, yes, and in general, yes. It's a very diverse area, though, but there is a very large Jewish contingent, and certainly all the observant Jews live in that side, because you can walk to the five. Oh, believe it or not, all 5 synagogues, or 4 of them are really very close to each other, and the other one is just like a mile away.
I know you're a member of both shuls. How do you do it? You split up the shul. You split up Shabbos, or you go back and forth. You just like going to Kiddush once in a while.
I go to shul every Shabbat. I promise. I generally go to the Young Israel. That is what I call my home synagogue, to make life easier for my family. Certainly, we're active and huge supporters of the Hebrew Institute, and we love them and they love us. And Rabbi Martyr is a very inspiring leader.
Yeah.
I would say what's fun for me, hearing who you are and what your pitch is, and really just sitting here and being able to look at you while we talk, as opposed to conference calls and Zooms, which is not as good at all, is the place where you are, the influence that you've had is really growing and is very positive, and we definitely need to have more of Justin in the paper. Yeah. And in fact, I don't know exactly why it toggles my memory a little bit personally, but last Rosh Hashanah, we had an interview in the paper with a woman engineer. Her name was Aviva Oppenheim. She's not from anywhere near you are from. She lives in Fairlawn now. But her message was very similar, and it was really why we put it on the cover, which is that she works for the Port Authority. She is an engineer, a high-ranking woman, sitting there being observably, visibly Jewish, and being that, or Legoyim, in a very, very secular environment, and having the opportunity just to be that person that they call, saying, like, okay, I understand what day Yom Kippur is, but what does that mean for when we have to close the roads? Like, she's literally answering people's questions in her office about Jewish calendar. Even though that's not her job, she's literally a mechanical engineer. Sure. But it's an amazing opportunity, and that's what makes you such a great fit for the Jewish Link and our features, because the kind of work you're doing is really in our wheelhouse, and the kind of message that we want to be bringing to our community. So we definitely have to get more of Justin into the Jewish Link. And I guess the last question we want to ask, sorry to to monopolize my questions, but let's talk a little bit about the future. Let's give us a crazy idea. Give us like the things that keep you up at night, maybe, or like one thing that keeps you up at night about that you worry about. Is it about Israel? Is it about how to get to Israel? Is it about your kids staying in America? Or what are the sorts of things that worry you that you would like to see more of from us, maybe, or just generally crazy ideas, like just wild card question?
Well, I'll tell you in general, my thing from a Jewish perspective is Jewish continuity. How do we stay strong as Jews, whether that's education, lifestyle, Israel? How do we stay a strong and positive and Jewish community, a Jewish community that cares about everybody, but that is strong? I mean, we see the dangers of assimilation and intermarriage, and we have a tremendous challenge, and that keeps me up at night all day and all night. Obviously, the growing acceptance of anti-Semitism on some level really keeps me up at night. We all have to be vigilant, fight, and be involved more. There's no question that if we stay on this trajectory, things will get worse. And again, Jews need to be more involved. I mean, it's my understanding that AOC is moving away from our community. And I was on the phone with somebody in National Jewish Things, and I was like, we need to work on that. And we need more people involved in that and in her district. And she needs to hear from us and understand us better and understand our concerns. And the idea that I get the feeling that no one's taking on that responsibility is really painful to me and very dangerous for our community, because she's a national leader with a national following, and we need better communication with her.
So basically, as opposed to dismissing individuals who we see as combative, to engage them.
We need to engage them. Listen, I myself am involved. I have a new congressman now, Jamal Bowman.
Right.
And I engage him, and it's not always simple and easy, and we're trying to understand each other better, and we're working on it, and that's the only way. You certainly, dismissing people and letting them off the hook is never the answer. And when I hear that AOC doesn't have primaries, and even if she doesn't have primaries, I get the feeling she doesn't have activists in her district. I mean, Congress members represent, about 775,000 people. Are there no Jewish people in her district in New York City who care? No supporters of Israel that care, that are communicating with her and trying, that troubles me tremendously. As I said,
that's a really interesting feature that we should work on.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is
almost
in our
every
coverage
district.
area.
Yeah.
This matters. Okay.
And how about, and Jamal, have you a goal? I mean, I don't think he's going to ever become he's not going to become a card carrying member of Likud. But what's a goal with him would be just to.
I think that he's having a greater understanding of the Jewish community and of Israel. As you know, he took a trip to Israel, and he tries to point out to us some of the very pro-Israel things he's done. I mean, he supported funding for Iron Dome. He opposes BDS. I mean, he's like, I get a bad rap. I mean, I'm trying to show him love, and I think he's trying to show me love, and we're trying to understand each other. I mean, he has certain issues with Israel, and I'm trying to communicate with him, and trying also, listen, a lot of it's education. I mean, I don't think he knows everything or certain things, and that's understandable. He's an African American from the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I mean, so, we're working on it.
Wow, but that's it's so important to understand who a person is and where they come from in order to be able to communicate who we are. So with that in mind, I would say that this has been a great pitch meeting.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you to the link, because as I said, in my family, we love the link for everything. We read so many things, it's unbelievable.
Good quality control check. Does it come to the house, or are you picking up at shul? Please don't. Is it coming to the house?
Comes to the house, and it's a shul.
Good. Okay.
Great.
And everybody looks forward to it.
Yeah,
Amazing.
thank God.
You guys are doing great work. Thank you so much.
Just let you know, this is not for the podcast. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary this next week. Just be aware. And the truth is, actually, that I shouldn't say that. We actually have not been in your community for 10 years. It's been we only really came in about 7-8 years ago. So we're because of the Bronx Westchester Connecticut paper, which is now part of the expanded Jewish League.
Which is great. Keep expanding.
Yeah.
Keep up your great work. Listen, you're informing the community in a tremendous way. And maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but it was very sad when the Jewish Week went out of business. I thought that was a very sad thing for the Jewish community. Less for our community, but it kept a lot of Jews who were less affiliated, involved, and connected. So you're doing a great thing by informing people and educating people and entertaining us.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in
Thank
today.
you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Justin.
Moshe.
Appreciate it. Okay, good.
Shabbat shalom.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.